got something really exciting to look at today, W-VHS, which was a format devised and released by JVC around 1994, used for high-definition analog video recording, mostly to go along with the high-definition TV broadcast that they had in Japan at the time. So it records the video in a component format. The video head has multiple heads on it. I'll just read it from Wikipedia. The signal is recorded using a method called time compression integration, in which the luminance signal is divided into two sets of lines, which are then split and recorded across both tracks. After the luminance signal has been recorded, the two color signals are recorded, one on each track, in a time compressed form. Recording these signals sequentially rather than side by side prevents crosstalk between the luma and chroma components. So it's sort of similar to what Betacam SP does, except it seems more mixed across the two tracks rather than one for luma and then the other for the chroma signals compressed and put next to each other. Instead, it's luma on both and then chroma, the two color difference components, one on each track. Something like that. Anyway, I've got two tapes here, and they're new, unopened, and we're going to open one of them, and hopefully we'll try one out. Though we've got a bit to get through to get to that point. These are not that easy to come by. So here's an unboxing Victor W-VHS. Look at that, it's got a little pocket for putting the bits and pieces in it. It's got some important instructions. And so you can record, so normally you're recording high definition, which is somewhere between 135i to 1080i, which depends on what you're recording. And you can also, that's done with analog component video inputs on the VCR, and you can also record standard definition in the WVHS format, so it provides very high performance. This is state-of-the-art technology for sophisticated WVHS tapes delivering higher quality pictures and sound. So it's very similar looking to the VHS, because it goes in a VCR. That can still support the VHS format and S-VHS. You see they've added a cover on the bottom, similar to what you get in the professional formats and DV tapes. So that stops dust getting in there. There's an edit check sheet and some labels. It is possible to use the professional format digital S tapes in the W-VHS VCR, like this. The runtime's different though, because they run at different speeds. I suspect that it is the same thing. It's probably come from the same mold. But you see, yeah, pretty sure that's come off the same mold, but they haven't put the plug in there which identifies the plastic format. See, that's PS polystyrene, I guess. And that is not indicated, but it feels like it's the same. Yeah, that's a shortish one. And so you can use those tapes, which are a little bit more available than the WVHS tapes, but still not that easy to come by. Compare it to a normal VHS tape. Don't know what they're going for the really narrow window. Not really sure what the point of that is. There's some extra notch there. You can see that it's got, by default, record prevention. You cannot put this into a normal VHS machine because the tape formulation is different and you'll end up damaging it. It's metal particle tape. Yeah, so that was too rough on the video heads in your normal machine and you'll wreck it. So instead, the record prevention is a switch down here. And that also won't work in the D-VHS. It doesn't have any of those holes. So it can't be used in your other machines, only in WVHS. But you can put your VHS cassettes into the WVHS machine and it will record with them in standard definition, of course. Now, I got hold of a WVHS machine and it was not overly expensive, and of course that means it doesn't work at the moment. I did an initial look and sort of tear down in a live stream, so we'll include that video here and then we'll take a look at the machine and see if we can get it working. Got here a look at the back of it. It's a Panasonic NV-WV10, a high vision video cassette recorder, and so that does, oh, it might be in bad shape because a little spring has just fallen out of it. So that's a WVHS. So we're going to take the top of this. It's got a tape stuck in it. I've not tried turning it on yet, but since the spring just fell out of it, that's quite dodgy. So we'll do a first impressions, take a look inside it video, and if it looks okay, we'll try turning it on and see if we can get that tape out of it. Presumably this is going to have bad capacitors in the power supply. That's typically what these things have these days, and that might mean that someone tried to load a tape in and that caused the power supply to sag and cut out. I guess this screws on the back. So this will record 1080i analog video, which is quite fancy for VHS. Look at all that stuff. It's just a normal VHS tape in there. I'm wondering, can we, perhaps we should just try plugging it in and see if it will eject itself. One of the biggest dangers to these machines these days is the auto head cleaner thing, so we probably need to pull that out. There we go. Because the little roller thing perishes and then it puts this greasy muck onto the head, which is what I found in a couple of other machines I looked at recently. But this probably has another, it's got a main board on the bottom there, but I suspect there's another whole board underneath that in this lower section for the high definition stuff, because that's where it goes to the component plugs on the back. Let's try to plug it in and see what happens. I think the tape's stuck in there, not left in there. Oh, that belt is slipping. Either that belt's worn out or the mechanism is jammed. Yeah, but I can't even see where that belt's going to. Guess that's a loading motor. There's a pulley down the bottom. Probably have to take the whole mechanism out in order to access that. It's no good. Okay, I might have to take some time taking this thing apart and then investigate that belt and see if there's some kind of jamming in this mechanism. Depends if there's timing requirements. I might have to try and find a service manual, because sometimes you can't just take this part off because the loading mechanism off, because when you do that some cogs will change position and then you end up with everything out of alignment. But it'll be good if that's the only thing wrong with it, just a belt needs replacing or some mechanism unjamming. Oh, but a spring fell out. Can we take the bottom off and see what's under there? I think we can even do that, because it's all these parts are over it. Maybe they... Let's just go and have a look. You have to undo screws down here. I wonder if the same happens at the back. I just want us to have a look and see what's on this bottom board. Might not be that easy. Oh, this screws down the side. Ah, look at that. Whole bottom half of the machine just lifts off. There's a shielded enclosure. Guess that's for the special high definition stuff. And then there's a board where all the component video connectors are, which I don't think has much on it. It's just a connector board. Awkward for me to put it somewhere. Anyway, we might save that for another video. Interesting that the motor for the video head is on top of the head drum, not below it. Probably because it needs so many pickups for all the different head signals that it needs all that room underneath. And since there's a board right there, they can't have the motor down any further, so they put it on the top. Might be able to just pull this out. And there you go. His invincible... What does that say? I don't know what that says. Anyway, there you go, that's what the tape is. So now that that has had the weight of the tape removed, maybe it will have enough... Okay, well the tape mechanism seems to use a different motor to that one there that's getting jammed. So yeah, there must be some other kind of mechanical issue going on. Let's turn it back on and see if it does anything. And it's still unhappy about not being able to move that motor properly. Yeah, probably have to study something and work out how to take the front off, then take the mechanism out. I'm just looking at removing the front. That might be a bad idea. There's probably more bits that have to be removed before that can come off. Okay, the front has come off. Oh, I see. It's got nice ribbon cable extender pocket thing, so the cable folds in through a hole so that the front panel can be put on and removed. See that? The ribbon cables go into slots so that the slack can be taken up nicely. Let's have a look at the machine because it is rather nice. Very fancy. WVHS HDSD. It's a Panasonic NV-WV10, which I'm pretty sure is exactly the same as the JVC version of this. I wasn't able to find a service manual for either, which is a little bit disappointing. I'm not sure why that is. Got a nice panel there. Inputs and controls for what you're recording. There's the audio levels, the operate, eject, transport controls, indicators that tell you what mode it's in, and they also come through the front. Then there's the jog shuttle control. The controls here are about tuning and setting up timer recording. And we'll have a look at the back. On the back we got down the bottom the component inputs and outputs for the high definition. Then power, nicely they give you an outlet too. The BS satellite connections, and there's bitstream for the going between decoders and the TV for the high definition TV. And then normal AV inputs and outputs, the standard definition TV tuner. And yeah, there's other versions of this I've seen that have, instead of all this stuff, the non-Japanese version, it's got a serial port for controlling it, which is interesting, and an RGB output for going to monitors and projectors. The other one has B and C connectors rather than RCA, so it's a bit more industrial oriented. Just got these fake wood panel things made of plastic on the sides. Okay, let's look around this stuff. Stuff in modules, I'm not sure exactly what these things are. Inside shielded enclosures. It's got all these horrible ribbon cables which the stabilizer bits are peeling off of, so yeah, it's not going to be fun if we have to unplug lots of that. There's all the tuner things up the top there. Tuner BS unit. The motor's on the top of the head, and you can see on the head drum there are quite a lot of video heads for doing the multi-track stuff. And you can see there is an issue. Those there are loose, and I think something's messed up with this white part here, which is part of the mode select and shifts all the mechanism around. That seems to be in bad shape for some reason, and we need to investigate that. But as I couldn't find a service manual, that's not going to be particularly easy. It's got a lot of very horrible type of connectors where it's just some kind of stiff wire poked into some holes, and you just hope. There are some normal connectors, but there's a lot of these other ones where it's just bare wires poked into holes. It's terrible. It's not very maintainable at all. But I did find a D-VHS similar form factor machine's service manual, and it looks like the mechanism is the same. What luck. Hopefully it can follow that, and we'll try and take this apart and see if we can get this sorted out. And if we're lucky, that's the only thing wrong with it, other than probably every capacitor's gone bad. But there's only 500 or so capacitors, so sure. But let's hope. We'll see if this can go back together. I'm trying to find information on how the W-VHS system works. I was not able to find that, but I did find this video technical guide for the US equivalent of the machine we're using. I think that's, yes, the US market version of the VCR that we're looking at. And it does give a little bit of information here, but it then says, for details of the fundamental technology for the W-VHS circuit, refer to technical guide for that model. And I've not been able to find that. Unfortunate, so I'm not sure where that technical guide. You can get the service manual for that, but that doesn't include technical information as far as I can see. It's only schematics and adjustment procedures. But anyway, you can see a brief overview of the process here. The analog video is digitized and then processed through these stages and then recorded through 4 heads. And then there's a whole bunch of hard to follow block diagrams which take you through that process. But yeah, you can see there's 2 tracks recorded, and then they go through how that you can use cue and review mode with video on this VCR. Down here, there you go, HD record mode signal processing. So it comes from the component inputs through some amplifiers, through some buffers, then onto this, and it goes through some stuff there. Then there's the analog to digital converters, and it pops onto the time-based correctors and all that sort of business. Goes through all the stuff. There's memory. I think there's 4 megabytes of memory, maybe. And this was the problem is because I got a D-VHS service manual, which I'm about to use to adjust this mechanical arrangement. I keep looking at details in that service manual, and yeah, anyway, goes through digital processing and then pops out of there on these tracks here, K and A, which come all the way from over here. Yeah, so that stuff comes back from the digital circuit back through these things. Non-linear WD clip emphasis mod or FM modulator buffer, and then the same through here, and then that ends up on the. Is it possible to actually work out what's going on here? Not about studying it for a while. Clamps, low pass filter, analog digital converter, and then that would be where the time and compression multiplexing business happens. That TCI chord amps, and that goes out through the transformers on the head drum and onto the actual heads. And then they've got one that shows the playback process. You see, that's the model that has the RGB outputs, because there's a component to RGB converter there. So this is just going in the other direction through all the same stuff. You can find this manual and look at it in more detail if you like. What we've got here is the service manual for a D-VHS machine that, as far as I can tell, uses the same mechanics as this one here that we've got. It's got the user manual, and then it's got... Yeah, but this is the European version, so this is the PAL version of a D-VHS machine. So we're really going cross purposes, but the important bits, as far as I can see, are the same here. So that arrangement's a bit different because it's a different machine. They tell you how to take everything out of the casing and then lay it on the bench so you can have it all exposed while you're working on it and working things out. And then there's a procedure naming the parts. What we need to do is get the cassette mechanism out, and they say you've got to have it in the unloaded position where this cam which has a hole in it, lines up with a hole in the deck. In this machine, so I can't see that, and because of the problem in this machine, the mechanism is stuck, so we can't get it into that state, which means we're going to have to pull it apart as is. Try and arrange it into the unloaded position and then put it all back together. To be unloaded, in the unloaded position, that will need to rise up, and then this little arm that is behind it will swing back down into the position to where the tape goes. And then this thing here, the control bracket, we're going to have to take that off because that's where these tape guides here are controlled by something underneath that control bracket. No, sorry. The control bracket is the metal on top of the control plate, which is this white strip. And we have to take all of that off so that we can get to the thing that controls the position of the tape guides. This stuff here, the guide rails. There's something on that interfaces with that control plate, or whatever you called it. That's pretty much it. It's just 2 pages. Never done it before. Yeah, I only got this machine recently. Decided to enter the world of more modern VCRs after playing around with my 80s VCRs for many years. So the front comes off. Now a spring fell out of this machine, as far as I can tell. This spring fell out, and I don't know what that's for. Really certain that the timing of that loading mechanism is not influenced in any way by the timing of this stuff here. It appears to be on a separate motor that is free running, so we shouldn't have a problem with pulling this off in whatever position the main mechanism is. Doing something wrong. Alright, here we go. Yeah, I think because that loading arm thing comes out the side there, and it seems to be in the way of this. We take that control plate piece off now. Now that's got a little metal spring thing on it, so that we have to be careful about that. Some little plastic hooks. Now there's a split washer there which we have to pull off. It's going to be exciting. Split washer. There is another metal plate, and it's got 2 large split washers there and a little hook there that is covering over that control plate thing, so I need to get those ones off as well. Okay, there's that thing out of the way. Now we should be able to lift up this another hook in there next to the end sensor LED. Right, I think I can lift out now. Oh no, there's another thing down there. Another plate, which is over here, but there's another plate in there that's over this control plate. And I don't know, can we move it now? Because it's no longer engaging with that other stuff, because we've lifted that end up. There we go, that's now enough. Oh, okay, so that's there. Is the switch that goes into that record prevention switch of the WVHS. I don't know if it's to there or there. And then that there is the normal, well, like the regular VHS record prevention. Okay, we'll put that out of the way. Oh yeah, that's just belt driven onto there. That's really good because that means then we don't have to worry about timing of this loading mechanism. Now the problem we got is that little thing there is over that plate. Okay, now we can get that off. Now this can come off. Now what we hope is nothing is broken on this, and that it's just a matter of working out how to get this. Oh, that has to be pulled in, doesn't it? Like that. And whatever else, that I guess. Is that controlled by this? I suppose it's that and that. Move that around to change the idle. It's probably a rewind fast forward thing. Now we need to find where the home position of that is with that hole. Oh look, here we go. That is now rising up. And then look, this thing here is returning. Oh look, there's the hole. Oh, and now this plate is moving. That is now lined up with a hole in the base plate. I think we might just clean a little bit of this stuff up because it's quite dirty around here. So that is one thing that's controlled. Oh, that's snapped off. I wonder if that's where that spring came from. Maybe that's what's messed it up. There is a little thingy-bob there, and there's a hook there. So I reckon that little tiny spring that we saw, I think that spring used to be, looks like it's possible, doesn't it? I guess that snapped off and probably got stuck somewhere, and then that caused the mechanism to click out of alignment. So that there is responsible for driving probably that's that thing there. What does that do? Don't know what the point of that thing is. So those little bits there have fallen off. Okay, I'll just do some research in this manual and see if I can find out what that is and where it's supposed to go, because that there that's the back tension part, which is presumably that track there. But then this other piece, something to do with controlling these. Same kind of attachment method there for a spring on that brake. The same color spring, so I'm quite sure that's what it is. And I'm thinking, well, we can probably just hook the spring into to get this going again. Assuming there's nothing else broken, we can probably just hook the spring into the side part if it sits flat enough. I'll see, I'll just do some research and then we'll work out the best way to proceed. Okay, they do have this thing in the guide, take up lever. So that is this thing here that has got that broken little spring post on it. And then further up there was a picture which showed the spring on it there. You can see it there. But down here it's a procedure on how to do that. Take out, remove real disc assembly. So down here you can see that piece there can actuate and can claw that around. I don't know what the point of that is. Pretty sure that's where it goes. But we've got to get the spring back on. That's the issue here. Is how do we reattach that spring? And the problem is it slides on the bottom of that. I've tied it on with a component leg wrapped around that thing. No idea if that's going to be any good, but yeah, really think it's possible to get spare parts for this thing, is it? You have to get another machine, and I have been looking at other machines and either faulty or really expensive, but usually both. Okay, I still don't know what that thing is supposed to do, but presumably that's, who knows. Let's put this stuff back together around it and see what happens. We'll just have to try it and see, because yeah, other than getting another machine and hoping it doesn't have the same problem, or wait for a good deal to show up. So that means I think we're ready to put this plate thing. The mechanism's definitely in its rest position. I've cleaned all the bits and pieces. It still looks a bit gross, but cleaned the tape path at least, and the other bits and pieces. Now where does that go? We need to look at the instructions on how to put it back on. It just says holes align with holes in deck. It's pretty brief, this. It says control plate, slide plate, so we haven't taken that one out, so that's okay. Control plate, so attach control plate by aligning the two alignment holes on the control plate with the alignment holes on the main deck assembly. Guess it's that. That's one of the holes on the main deck assembly, as well as the alignment holes on the take-up lever, as the take-up lever is pulled by a tension spring. Oh yeah, it says there, hole of take-up lever align with hole in deck. Let's give that a go then. Well, to start with, there's no hole for that one to align with. Oh, okay, it's through there, so it's all the way over this way. I'll just have to get in the way for this. Now, the problem is that there. Okay, so that's it. Just put that on. put on the slit washer here to stop that popping off, and then all those other screws and plates and things goes into plastic, so you got to be really careful with that. Then we got all the stuff to do with that take wheel screw involved in that. Now we can put the take-out reel back in, just like I put into the other one. There we go. And we just pretend that that spring thing that I put in down there is gonna work. Ah yeah, the head looked real dodgy. We're gonna have to inspect that closely because I'm not, without looking close up, but it didn't look terribly healthy, which is a bit concerning because the head's pretty important. So I think that mechanism is back in. It's all lined up and good now. Those things have gone rigid. Just touch everything up where I accidentally touched it. There's fingerprints on some things. These wheels and guides were a bit crusty. Capstan was a bit dodgy as well. So that's good, that stuff's clean. We'll do a head inspection. That looks okay, doesn't it? That one looks okay. You can see some crud above that. I think that's alright. Yeah. Yes, bit of crud above that one. Okay, I don't think any of them are damaged. They just looked a bit off from what I could see, but I think it's because of the position the windings are on them. See, it's bunched over to one side. It seems to have a tight winding and then a larger diameter winding. So I think that made me think, yeah, if it's manual shutter like that, then we can just use the light, the brightness of the light to affect the brightness of the picture. So you make it pretty fast shutter. Anyway, the head looks like it's in an alright condition, so that's good. Okay, we put the cassette loading doofy back in, and then you see it will work now because that thing's in its fully unloaded position that comes out through that gap. So it was that hook. Now this thing was pretty hard to get out, but I think it's because that hook there, I didn't realize. Ah yes, and there's a plastic hook there to there, so you got to push it forward then, and then it just kind of snaps itself into position. And then there's these two quite small screws. Oh, there's crust coming off that, which is a foam thing that's now disintegrating. Okay, let's just get rid of that. Brush that away, or vacuum it away. I'll sort that out. I'll clean the head, and then we'll give this thing a smoke test. Okay, we'll prepare this for a smoke test. It's pretty bad. Well, we knew that because we saw the crust on it, didn't we? Okay, so it should be good enough we can turn it on and just see what happens mechanically. Guess we'll clip this back into position as well. We might as well. Now, that has to be open, I think. And then these wires press into the guides. Okay, let's juice it up. It doesn't sound very good, does it? Okay, it sounds fine now. Alright. Anyway, let's try putting this tape in. Okay, well, it's a PAL tape, so I just wanted to check. But the mechanism is working. Rewind. Okay, it's stuck. Okay, it's not that heavy then. Oh, I wonder if that was... Oh, I think it's broken itself exactly the same as before. Alright, so I guess it's not fixed then. Oh no, it's... Oh, is it? I don't know. Can't tell if the belt's wrecked or the mechanism's jammed. Just to get this out of the way so we can see what's going on. Okay, that spring thing that I did is still attached, but it seems like it's it's troubled in some other way now. Oh, that was in the wrong place. I think that's wrecked itself. That, what do you call that thing? The back tension, our arm seemed to be jammed against the loading guides. Will that recover itself now? No. No, it's jumped itself out of alignment again. Well, something has. I can see that pulling itself upwards, so something's popped out. I don't know what. Oh, that's a shame. So close. I wonder if something wasn't quite in, or it's popped out. Anyway, I'm going to have to stop and return to this on another day, which might end up being another video, depending on how things go. So, in that case, it's to be continued. I had promise. It even threaded up and did all the right business. But when I put it into rewind mode, that upset it. Maybe that pushes this thing, just the mechanism, just a bit further over, and it couldn't deal with that. Anyway, I think it's realigned now. Wow, aligned again in the same way that it was before. Okay, let's put the tape in. Okay, so that seems fine. Let's see if it ejects it. Oh no, so it's lost the... Yeah, something's messed up with the take-up. That's a little bit unfortunate, so that means something didn't quite sit down right in there. If it's good enough that we can test a tape and actually playing back. Let's just try and fast forward this. Trying to slack tape fast forward for high speed. Okay. Let's try rewind. Okay, so it does rewind. Alright, let's try eject again. Oh, did it fine that time? We'll just try that again. Fast forward it. Now we'll just try rewinding a bit. Fine. Fast forwarding. Good. Playing. Ejecting. I reckon the belt there is close to slipping. Probably because it's been stressed quite a lot by what happened. Okay. Should we brave it with an actual tape? Like a good condition tape, not a scrap test tape. So that we can see whether it actually plays back. And let's hook up a video output to it. Okay, I've got some random tapes here. We'll see what it does. The one that was stuck in it, but that's probably got copy protection, so we'll run into that problem again. Anyway, let's see. See, it's BS channel 3 at the moment. Now, should I have cleaned the head again? I don't even know if this tape's got anything on it. Now, what's dodgy is it's detecting this as a WVHS tape. That light there's on. Is that normal? Oopsie, I think it's broken itself again. Oh dear. When I tried to use the jog control. Yeah, there you go. So we've wrecked a tape, another tape. Yeah, that's a shame. Okay, so yeah, there's mechanical problems. So I wonder why it detects it as WVHS tape. Does that mean that little switch thing that we looked at in the cassette mechanism is unhappy about something? Yeah, so that's stuck again. Yeah, it's because the back tension thing isn't retracting so it drives these down with the back tension thing in the way. Yeah, it gets it stuck. So I'll have to take it apart again and have a look at that. Anyway, we'll do that later.